We are beginning to use victims as part of the prosecution process. And that is wholly unprincipled to take an already damaged constituency and, in the guise of helping them, make them part of the prosecution process when that particular role has been accomplished, putting them on one side and forgetting about them. Exactly the case that's happening in the United States with the emerging right of victims' families to witness the execution of the person that killed their loved one. In American popular psychology, they just refer to this as closure. That once you've watched the individual who killed your mother, father, loved one, you then are fine. You leave the execution chamber and you vanish into a sunset where the world is perfect. Nothing could be further from the truth. The truth is that there is a chapter in this long, long story that perhaps has been finished with the execution of the person that caused their loved one pain and them pain. But by no means, the research evidence that's available, do they then become trouble-free citizens. So we have to give far more thought to the individuals who are left behind after homicide.
Families of the people condemned to death are completely innocent victims, and nobody really thinks about them. And so the death penalty creates a new set of victims. When we talk about the victims, we talk about the victims of crime, but we never talk about the victims that are created by the execution of a family member or a loved one. And this is particularly difficult, I think, in cases where people have small children. Because these children, they grow up seeing usually their father in prison, and then knowing that he's going to be killed. And we use the word execution because that's the word that is used by the state, but we're talking about a premeditated, intentional killing by the state of someone that you love very dearly. And this is extremely difficult for families to deal with, and it can lead to all sorts of problems like alcoholism, substance abuse, depression, mental illness, because the stress and the trauma associated with having a loved one on death row is so severe.
Seeing the result and the impact on those kids. Again, this inmate, David Washington, was executed. He never had to experience it. But those children every day think of their dad, live in the stigma, with that stigma, and they're not able to tell their families about it. And they just go on and on and on. So I can tell many stories of families of death row inmates where, oftentimes in those nights, in the night before an execution, the inmate says, "Man, I'm happy to get out of here. I hate the prison. This place is miserable. Even if my death sentence were commuted, I'd still have life without parole. I'd still die here." The average age of conviction and sentence to death is 28. So with life imprisonment basically means 40 years. Life expectancy is 68. It's a little lower in prison than in the general population. And the inmates invariably on the night before their execution say, "Man, I'm happy to get out of here." They might not want to be executed, but they realize that life for them will never be good. But the family has to live on. And I think that in many cases, the pain imposed by the death penalty is worse for the family of the offender than for the offender himself.